Have you ever watched the news and just wondered, why? Why are some countries allies while others are constantly at odds? And how in the world does our planet, with almost 200 different nations, get anything done without some kind of global government keeping everyone in line? Well, today, we're diving into the field that tackles all of those massive questions, international relations. All right, let's get into it. And look, these aren't just questions for a classroom. The answers to these questions shape, well, pretty much everything. From the price of your coffee to the future of our planet. It is a huge, high-stakes puzzle. And today, we're going to start putting some of the key pieces together. So, first things first, we need to be on the same page. What exactly is international relations? I can tell you right now, it's way more than just what you see in the daily news cycle.
That word right there, systematic, is the key. You see, IR isn't just a collection of stories about presidents and prime ministers. It's a real field of study with theories and frameworks designed to spot the hidden patterns in how countries deal with each other. It's really about seeing the structure, the architecture, behind all the apparent chaos. Okay, this is a super important distinction that a lot of people mix up. When we talk about international politics, we're usually talking about one specific thing, that classic competition for power between countries. But international relations, or IR, is the whole shebang. It looks at everything: international law, the global economy, the power of ideas, and even actors that aren't countries, like giant tech companies or global activist groups. It's a much, much bigger picture.
All right, let's get to it. We're about to talk about the single biggest, most important concept in all of international relations. This one idea is the starting point for understanding pretty much every challenge that every country on Earth has to deal with. Now, when you hear the word anarchy, you probably think of total chaos, right? But in IR, it has a very specific technical meaning. It just means there's no world government. There's no global 911 you can call when things go sideways. Every country, at the end of the day, has to look out for itself. And that one simple fact changes everything.
So where did this whole system even come from? It wasn't always like this. In fact, we can trace the birth of our modern world order all the way back to this one single year.
And here's how it all went down. Back in 1648, a series of treaties called the Peace of Westphalia ended a truly brutal war in Europe. But what it did for the long run was even bigger. It established the principle of state sovereignty, basically the idea that a king or ruler is the ultimate authority inside their own borders. And once you say there's no authority higher than the state, boom, you've created a world of independent actors. Our modern anarchic system was officially born.
So that leads us to the fundamental question. If the world is anarchic, then how are countries supposed to act? This question has kicked off some of the biggest debates you can imagine, leading to different theories, basically competing explanations for how the world really works.
Let's start with the big one, realism. The early classical realists, like a scholar named Hans Morgenthau, thought the constant struggle for power was just a reflection of our own flawed, power-hungry human nature. But later, a thinker named Kenneth Waltz came along and said, hold on, it's not about human nature, it's about the system. His idea, neorealism, argued that the anarchic system itself forces countries to compete for power just to feel safe, no matter who's in charge. So for realists, the bottom line is pretty stark. In a world where there's no one to call for help, you have to help yourself. This self-help system, they argue, inevitably leads to a constant struggle for security and survival. It's a tough view of the world, where conflict is always just around the corner. But then, what if that's not the whole story? What if anarchy isn't some iron law of nature, but more like a state of mind? In the late 1980s, a scholar named Alexander Wendt dropped this bombshell of a quote, and it totally changed the conversation. And this is the core of constructivism. It argues that anarchy doesn't have just one automatic outcome. Instead, its meaning is constructed by countries based on their relationships and their shared ideas. Think about it. The US isn't worried about Great Britain's nuclear weapons, but it might be very worried about another country's. Why? The weapons are the same. The relationship is different. For constructivists, ideas and identity are just as powerful as military hardware. Now, these big ideas didn't just pop out of nowhere, right? They were all forged in the fire of real-world history, often as a direct response to huge, world-changing events. Let's take a look. After the unbelievable devastation of World War I, people desperately wanted to believe we could prevent war forever. This led to a wave of idealism, putting faith in institutions like the League of Nations. Well, when that dream shattered with World War II, the pendulum swung hard in the other direction. Realism, with its dark focus on power, seemed to perfectly explain the new Cold War standoff. Then, when the Soviet Union just ended, it blew the doors open for new ideas like constructivism to explain a world that was clearly being reshaped by ideas and identity.
Okay, so that's a lot of theory, I know. But what does it all mean for us, right here, right now? Why should we even care about these old debates today?
Well, because the field is now tackling every single one of our biggest global challenges. We're talking about everything from cyber warfare to the global supply chains that bring you your gadgets, to climate change, human rights, and the rise of new world powers. These are the complex, interconnected problems that define our world, and you can't even begin to understand them without the tools of IR. And this, right here, is maybe the most important takeaway. International relations doesn't give you one simple, easy answer. What it gives you is a powerful toolkit. Realism, constructivism, and other theories are like different lenses. Each one helps you see the world in a new way, bringing different parts of our incredibly complex reality into focus.
So the next time you see a headline about some new global crisis, you'll have a choice. Will you see it through a realist lens, as a raw struggle for power? Or will you use a constructivist lens and ask how shared ideas and identities are shaping the conflict? The power of international relations is that it gives you the tools to analyze the world for yourself. Thanks so much for joining me.